Okay, team, welcome to Inside the Movie Photographer with Jason Boland. Today, we've got episode 2 with Robert Coppa, the great fashion and editorial photographer. And if you've seen episode 1, I think you agree. Now, today is really cool, actually, because Robert's a judge with the AIPP. So he's going to take you through that process and let you know what the judges are looking for in those images that you're submitting. He's also doing a 2-light setup, which you guys can play around with at home. And you know what? I'd really love to see the results of those images. So let's get straight into it with Robert. It's a great episode. Enjoy. Now, this is some of your editorial work, or?
Yes. So this was shot in Sydney in La Perouse, Botany Bay. You know La Perouse? Yep. Yeah, it's just a little island. There's a little cross bridge. And it's just jam-packed with tourists all the time. So this was fairly early in the morning to try to get a little bit of they got beautiful sandstone kind of cliffs in there. So this was a bit of an editorial for the swimwear that the model was wearing here.
There's a beautiful chill to your photography, and talking to you, it's like you are a very calming person. I think, like, you know, if I'm having a bad day, I might get on the phone to Robert, but you can see it really comes out in your work. Is that something that, you know, because you are dealing with beauty and passion and art, I mean, is that something, you know, you talk about your love of the arts going back many years. So is this something that you feel does creep in? Oh, come on.
Yeah, so this, you know, this was actually probably my second most favorite shoot that I've had. The team was absolutely amazing. We shot this in a little studio in New Jersey. It's actually a castle.
Oh, wow.
A photographer, I can't remember the name, but I got to give you the link to this place. It's absolutely amazing. She does a lot of family photography, and she does weddings and couples and family. But the place is just outstanding. And I had the opportunity to work with a great recycling designer based in New York. So you see that necklace that she's wearing. That's actually recycled or reused silver that she smelters it and recasts it into art pieces. And again, this was quite an international effort. Again, designer from New York, hairdresser from Germany, and makeup artist from the UK.
It's quite amazing because you do have quite a bit of gear around. You are right there, smack bang in front of your model, yet your work it's like you're invisible to them. And it's, I don't know, I've got to come and sit there and listen to the way that
you got to come over, spend a couple of days with me.
I would love to, because it's just, there's so much passion in your work, and it's like your models are in an empty room. It's really quite something else.
I have to say, I've also been very fortunate to work with some amazing talent. Liz in New York. She's from Poland. She's an ex-ballerina, and she's just so graceful, moves so well, and emotes and expresses really well, as you can see here.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're actors and athletes, really, aren't they? And
absolutely,
it's amazing. Oh, there's a couple of these shots here. Just that light. So, is this studio or is it on location?
Okay, so I think for this one, this was a campaign that I did for a wedding planner slash florist. And we thought about shooting it outdoor, and it turned out to be a real blazer of a day. But we had this beautiful large window which was backing into this room. And so we shot this inside the house. I'm going to give away a few trade secrets here. What you see in the background is a just some white linen hanging off the wall. And for lighting, we just bounced two lights off the back wall so that there's no direct lighting on them. So it gives you that very ethereal, very, very soft feel to the image. So a lot of this was shot pretty open, maybe at about f2, 2.8 perhaps.
Oh, wow.
So because there's no direct lighting and everything is indirect, including the sun streaming in through the windows, it came out and it's quite soft.
Yeah, it looks almost like they're inside a China ball. It's so beautiful. And the wrap from that light is, I mean, that's really good. You know, that's, again, you know, I mean, your technique, although it looks complicated, you simplify it. And I think that's something that great photographers are good at doing.
Right. So look at that amazing headpiece. That's, again, so lucky to work with some amazing, talented people.
Oh, totally.
Yes, and a few of this we shot with that, and it was really scrambling because when we got to the location, we thought, oh, this is too harsh for what we were trying to. I didn't have a screen that was big enough to cover both of them, and so that's why we tried a few things. We went inside. Sometimes, you know, just thinking on your feet can help, and trying things out. You know, the weather can change. You know, whenever you have an outdoor type campaign that you need to work on, things can change on a dime sometimes. So you need to be able to be versatile. Again, it comes down to understanding how light works. You know, if there's one thing, if people are starting to just learn photography, if there's one thing that I can tell you is understand how light works, not only just natural light, but also strobes, because you don't have a lot of control over the sun. You know, you can't move the sun away far enough to make any difference to an image, but you can do that with studio lighting. So if you understand studio lighting, outdoors is a lot easier to understand and how you can leverage it.
Yeah, and it's about, and you know, just to be able to see the light, and you know exactly what you're saying. It's like you got to think on your feet if you're outside, and you know you got something, you know, the light changes, or the sun's too big, or you know comes over. It's like there's always in a doorway, and you know you make use of what's there, right? You know, getting a big kicker off a window at a certain time of the day. It's just like being ready to pounce and move onto that spot, right?
Exactly. Oh boy,
I love this. I love that we're talking to the light master,
and it's not working,
going out. Well, no, but I reckon what you're doing is just relighting yourself all the time, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, just mixing it up a little bit. So this is day 2 of the same campaign.
Oh wow!
The crew went out, and I got on up. I stayed in bed, but the crew went out and built a 4-post bed on the beach at 4 a.m. Put in all those fresh flowers. They were all fresh. So you know that's what happened. I kind of rocked up at around, I don't know, 9:30, 10 o'clock. Had breakfast, and then we got into it. So I had it easy. But again, great group. The crew was amazing. We shot this at Palm Beach, right next to where we are right now. Where she is right now is the actual golf course.
Oh, that's funny.
So you know, and there's a par 3, so people kept teeing off and watching us do this. It got interesting. We started shooting bridal lingerie. I think the whole golf flow slowed right down for them. It took them a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine. Oh my gosh. You know, I love how you're not frightened to point your lens towards the sun too, and A lot of people, there's a lot of people think there's rules to photography, but there is no rule to photography. It's what works,
No.
right?
Yeah, it really boils down to the brief. You talk with your client and say, what are you trying to do with this editorial? What type of imaging are you trying to instill? And so, shooting into the sun, and if you're able to control that flare, then you can end up with some great images.
Wow, yeah, that's just beautiful. Oh, I love the neg space and everything that you do. I mean, like, you really turn it into art and architecture, and it's just the lines. I know I keep saying it, but you blow me away, sir.
Thank
Is
you.
this the same model from the first one?
Actually, it is. So this is the girl that the first image you showed, the bondage dress. Right. Yeah. So this is a latex designer from Sydney. Baylet, I think his name is. It's got some amazing pieces.
Oh, and the light that you've got going on in the background too. It's like, just the way that her head's just slotted, the body's all slotted into that lighter area, and then it's your own vignette. It's amazing. But you got to look at everything, don't you? I mean, like, lighting is about layering, right?
That's true. So, as you know, Jason, light is additive. So as you start adding lights, you add to the light. And so, the old saying goes, never start a shoot with turning 3 lights on. You have no idea what the hell is going on. So in a more traditional film, you got your backlight, fill, and main light, and key light, key back and fill, right? As they say in the business. So, I don't always necessarily start with the key light. Sometimes getting the right edging, so you see the rim lighting coming down her arms and all of that. Sometimes I start with the edging so that I know what kind of intensity my key lights needs to be, so that that edging doesn't get overpowered. And then, any kind of backlight or hair light that you need to do. I think in this one, this is a 3-light setup. Plus, I had 2 lights on the background with flags to be able to create that kind of, roof line type imaging in the back. I do enjoy Gobos. Not a lot of photographers use Gobos, but I really like to create some kind of lighting background. So whenever I get the chance to do it, I'll try to use a Gobo and I'll poke some holes into something and then just project some light through it. Sometimes
it really adds, because it's not just about what you're looking at in the foreground. It's like, and it's, I always think of it as in like the subject just dripping into the background. Like when I'm shooting, I don't look at the background. I don't send my focus to the background. I keep it on the subject, but I can feel the subject falling into that light and what's in the background. Oh gosh.
I got a good story for this one.
I want to hear. I'm sorry. Normally I'm not speechless, but every time I click to a new image of yours, I just have to stare at it. Yes, please. I want to hear the story.
So this one here, I think I was doing a workshop in Sydney. I was doing a lighting workshop, teaching a lighting workshop, and this model, I think I posted something on Facebook. I might have taken a shot of my setup or something to do with the workshop. And she said, "Oh my God, are you in Sydney?" And I said, "Yes, I am." She said, "I love the opportunity to have a shoot with you." I said, "Look, I'm teaching until about 5 or 6. I'm staying overnight, then I'm going straight back to Canberra." So we decided to see if we could meet. She came over to the hotel where I was staying. And my room was fairly tiny. Out of necessity, I had to make the background go dark because the background was a nasty looking curtain pattern that just would not work with anything. And that was the only room that we had. And this was the only crop that I could get And so out of necessity, I had to put the light right on top of her. And of course, as you know, when the closer the light is to the subject, the faster the fall off. And so this image came out, and this image is actually done really well. I've entered it in quite a few competitions, not only here in Australia, but overseas, and it's done really well overall. And she has great tattoos as well. But I think, and the color tattoos, but I think the black and white really gives more of a punchier, classier type image. Now, going to what we talked about, contrast. So this is the one where I have worked quite a lot on the image on the tonality and being able to really work on her tattoos and the contrast of the tattoo. So I basically retouched the tattoos. You see the face of the guy there, just as I would retouch her face. Same thing. So
wow. That's yeah. Oh, it's just like, and the shadows on her neck muscles and just, and so this is one light, you said?
This is one light.
See, there you go. Oh my gosh, what you do.
This is another image that has done quite well in the award circuits.
You're quite a celebrated award-winning photographer, right? Which I'm sorry that I didn't put that in the intro, because I wanted to get into it further down the track. And I didn't want to embarrass you straight off the bat.
Thank you. You're doing it now, right? I think I started seriously. I am a member of the Australian Institute of Professional Photography, and about 5 or 6 years ago, I started to seriously enter competition, because I felt that a lot of the commercial work that I do can be quite repetitive. I mean, what you're showing here are the highlights, right? Then not every image that comes out of my camera looks like this. So, but I felt I needed a vehicle that would push me to more creativity and just kind of stretch me and think about different way to approach photography. And I think the AIPP has definitely done that for me through the awards and just the comradeship that you have with the members. They're very supportive. It's really something that has become, so I'm conscious now, actually, I should say, whenever I take a shot, at the back of my mind, there's always, is this an award shot? Is this a final?
That's really cool. I mean, with Nikon being an ambassador with them, that they have a wonderful relationship with the AIPP, as do many other manufacturers. But I've obviously met quite a few of the presidents and a great deal of the members. And with what I do, I never kind of got the whole competition thing, but in the last 5 years, have started to. And what you've just said then, that it's pushing you in your creativity, that's probably the most pertinent conversation that I've had with someone about it, as opposed to anything else. It's pushing you, which is what it should be about.
Exactly. And it definitely was for me, just to give you an example, if a hairdresser comes over and says, I'm doing a competition, I need you to take shots, I really just care about the hair, I don't care about anything else. So it can get quite repetitive and mundane. And so whenever I do that type of shoot, at the back of my mind, there's always something like, can I get a shot here that I can use somewhere else? And ultimately, I think the client gets to benefit from that, because I'm deeping into the creativity. Sometimes it's outside of their scope and brief, and they look and they say, yeah, that's great, but no, we want to go with this. But it means that now I have an image that I can use. So.
And also, I guess, too, with social media, they get a second crack at the campaign, being able to, if it is an award-winning image, that they can put it out on their own social media and get some mileage out of it. Now, with something like this, with the painted gloves, is that your idea, or is it a stylist, or is it a part of the brief?
Good question. Actually, what we did with this, I had the I guess I don't know what you would call it, the cowl that she's wearing. It's actually a 3 meter long dress, or which was part of another shoot that I did with a local designer. And as you can see, it's torn in places. And she was going to throw it away, and I said, "Look, I love to keep it if that's okay." And she said, "Absolutely." So I kept this, and it was hanging up in the wardrobe for a long time. And then I had the opportunity to work with Anne Duffy, who's just an amazing fine art model. That's local here in Canberra. We don't get many fine art models in Canberra. And I got together with a makeup artist, and I said, "Look, I love this. If you look at the shape of that hood, it's very kind of, alien Geiger kind of feel to it." And that's what I wanted to create something dark. And you don't see much of her face, but her face makeup is also very dark. And the makeup artist suggested, "Look, how about we do this with the gloves?" And so she painted the hands, and then, flicked the splatter over where the gloves meet her skin and so on. So this was very much a collaboration.
It looks like a little bit of splatter on the cheeks too, and the nose. Is that right or not? Am I?
No, I think it's around her eyes. Actually, her eyes are quite dark.
Right.
So a little bit of splatter just under the
yes,
eyeliner.
Yes, that's what I thought. You're right. Wow. Oh, come on. We're going to have a countback of how many come-ons and how many open mouths that I have at the end of this. It's like going through your Instagram. It's like, oh, come on.
And this was actually a very happy accident. So this is like dragging the shutter, as you might see, because not everything is sharp. And it didn't quite work, what I was trying to achieve. But then when I looked at it in retrospect, it's still a very interesting image. So it's a much more arty style image. It's not about being a correctly exposed image or tack sharp image, but it's more about creating this feel of again, very much that nostalgic kind of feel with her covering her face with the hair and all of that.
It's very timeless. Your whole style is very timeless, and it's you can't pin a date on it. Do you judge as well? Oh, come on.
Yes. Yes. So I've started to do some judging as well now with the AIPP, and I really enjoy it. And actually, being a judge, the AIPP invests in you, and so there is a training program that you go through for being a judge in the AIPP awards, and it really has opened up my appreciation for art more so as well. And when you look at an image, you don't just look at what first hits you. By all means, that initial impact is very important, but then I am learning to linger in the image and look around to see what else you can find within that image. So for me personally, it's been a great learning experience. And again, you know why one of the reasons that joining the AIPP has given me that extra insight into image making. Oh, and printing, Ed, because prior to joining the AIPP, I did very little printing of my images. As you might appreciate, being in fashion, bridal couture, a lot of the stuff would go out to magazines. In essence, a campaign would be displayed in a magazine. So all the work that I did was digital. So I would finish the images and then send them out to pre-press for them.
Oh.
I didn't actually do any printing. And via the AIPP, I'm now learning a lot more about printing, about paper stocks, using the right equipment like monitors and so on. So again, my learning curve has been huge, but I love that, to be able to learn after you've been doing the same thing for quite a long time.
Hey, again, no shortcuts, but is there anything that you can say to the AIPP members or anyone out there entering a competition what you as judges are looking for?
Well, it depends on the category. So I tend to work in portrait and a little bit of commercial, but more so in portrait, right? So you know, with something, let's say this image here. By the way, this is a fellow photographer from Sydney. You know Ben Scott?
Yeah.
That's him.
Is that? No. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it is. So this is what happened. I rented his studio. I was there, and I was doing a series of. I was shooting photographers, and so.
Oh yes, you were going to come up here at one stage, weren't you? And then I was away.
Exactly, and you were away. So you're still on the line. Yeah. Well, I'll catch you on the flip side. And go up there, and I did take a photo of him and two other photographers. But then I thought, you know what? We had a makeup artist who I was doing a fine art shoot in the evening, and I said to Ben, I said, "Are you game for a little bit of fun?" And he goes, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, you know, how about we do something a little bit crazy, Joker kind of feel to it?" And he goes, "Yeah." And the makeup artist was just amazing. She did this fantastic makeup on him and crazy old hair, and we just had a really great time.
He stole my shoot.
Would you do something like this? Can I do something like this to you?
You can do whatever you want behind the lens. Oh my gosh, kidding me. Actually, we're sort of into a little bit of a portrait section here. And I've saved one of my favorite images for last. I wonder if you can guess it. You should write it down. What do you think? Write it down now. What do you think I'm going to pick as my favorite portrait? You know what's left here? You know, there's 5 or 6 images left.
I honestly can't remember. I've got a bad memory.
Oh, okay. Right, I'll take your word for it when we get to it.
Okay. But you wanted to know a little bit about what I would look for in an image.
Yes, absolutely.
For me, it's all about is there a strong narrative in the actual image itself? I mean, technically, it has to be good, obviously. You know, we look for things to make sure that you know, there are no major blown out areas, etc. But the other thing that we look for is that I personally look for is a narrative expression. You know, if I sit in, for example, I did this shot and I was sitting in front of Marie, and I was telling her to look sad, to feel sad, and to try to convey a certain feeling of sadness. And she did an absolutely amazing job at doing that. So for me, narrative is a big thing when I look at it. You know, sometimes it doesn't have to be literal. Sometimes even little hidden type things in the image that you can discover as you're looking at the image. That's also fantastic. I really love that.
Coming back to what we were talking about before with layers and keeping your interest peaked.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, is this shot through glass, or did you do this in post?
It's no. This is shot through glass. I had sprayed the glass with a mixture of glycerin and water to get it to bead that way, and then I had one of those steamers, you know, that you use for. I had it at the bottom so that there was a little bit of steam coming up, and shot this through. She's behind the glass pane.
See, this is what everyone should be taking away is the experimentation. It doesn't have to have a structure. It can just, an idea can come to your head and away you go with it, right?
Yeah. And you have to try it because you never know, right? The thing is that as you know, you'll do an image and you love it, and then you know everybody will hate it, but that doesn't mean it's a bad image. Technically, it's correct. Is what your aesthetic and sensibilities are drawn towards. You know, I like the darker kind of feel to images that I do for my own, as opposed to, you know, when I work professionally and commercially for other people. So this one here, I had thought about it for a while. I actually tried it with someone else, and it didn't quite work out.
Wow.
Because I think the image did work out, but I don't think the model was able to emote and express enough for what I liked. So I gave it another go.
Wow.
And I fail a lot of the time. And
well, success only comes through failure.
Exactly right. Exactly right. As long as you learn, you don't keep repeating the same thing.
I shoot some stuff and then I'll look at it 5 years or 10 years later, and it'll be an image that I've thrown, basically thrown away and wouldn't post, wouldn't look at. And then I look at it 5-10 years later and I have a little bit of a play, and it ends up being something that I really love. Do you go through your back catalogue often?
Yeah, I've been doing that a little bit lately. A lot of them I cringe at, but there are some of them that I really enjoy. And I said, why didn't I pick this image to do something with it? And I guess if I'm looking back images that I shot 10 years ago, right now my workflow is very different, and so I would tend to finish that differently, kind of old image by modernized by my new techniques that I use in post. So I've been doing that. Very recently, I was in New York in 2015. Actually, you saw that image we talked about, that the ballerina model. And one afternoon, I just went out with my camera and I just did some street photography. I've never really done street photography, and it sat on my hard drive for 5 years. And I was just going through it and I go, some of these are not bad. And I'm starting to post them on Facebook, and it's very different. People are saying to me, well, what are you doing? What's this stuff? And I'm going, you know what? It's stuff that I like, and I'm just putting it up there. If you don't like it, you don't have to do anything with it. But it's just a way for me to keep going and perfect my workflow, or slightly vary my workflow for different images.
Yeah, that's interesting that you should say about looking back at old work. It's the photographer, but it's almost like someone you used to know. It's right. Your style, but it's almost like, it's someone I used to know, like Gaudier.
Yeah. What was I thinking? Yeah.
There you go. There's my I'm so in love with this photograph.
Yeah, he's such an amazing little guy. His name is Ryan. He's 13 years old when I shot this. He's actually a model with a local model agency, and I was doing headshots. He came in and I was talking to his mom, and I said, look, I love to do a couple of, non-standard headshots.
Yeah.
Because I could just see that he's got such a look. I mean, look at his look, right?
I know.
And that freckled face. And I just said, will it be okay with you if I? And she said, yeah, absolutely. And there he is. It's just amazing.
It's so Australian and so androgynous, and it's just and innocence. I think that's the biggest thing I take away from this image, is that it just like yells innocence, if you can yell innocence.
Yeah.
But I love it. Hey, Robert.
Yeah.
Amazing. I have had so much fun. Thank you. I know that you got a scoot and a tick, but I have a couple of images here, which I asked you during the week, of a simple lighting setup that people could have a look at. Have you got just a few more minutes to talk us through that?
Yeah,
Thanks,
let's
bud.
go.
I'm going to flick into it. So here's your setup.
Okay.
And take it away.
So unfortunately, this is not my studio. I wish it was. I shot this in Melbourne, again, this is a Sarah Joseph creation. So she also does bridal lingerie. And we had the opportunity to shoot this in Melbourne. And this lighting setup is, we wanted it to be a little bit punchier, but we also wanted it to be a bit soft. So you probably can't tell exactly by the angles, but there's no real directness of light onto her. So it's all about using feathered lighting. and creating quite a strong but subtle look.
What do you mean by feather? Do you mean using the edge of the softbox so that it wraps more, or?
Exactly. I'm going to pick up this. I got this here. So imagine this is a light. So
Yep.
a directional light will be coming straight out. So
Yep.
feather, if this is the subject, then
Right.
instead of lighting it like this, I would light it like that. So that
Right.
using light that is not direct. So usually when light comes out of a light, it creates a bit of a cone as it expands, right? So
Yep.
outside of that directness of the cone is beautiful lighting. And so, sometimes I'm wasting, 90% of the light and it's going off into a black background, but it's that 10% that is so soft and wraps around the model. So you get some really great lighting effects.
That's a good tip, to use the fringe of the lighting, that you don't have to use 10% of the light, not 100% or 90%. Is that's a really good tip. And have you only got 2 lights here?
Only 2 lights, yeah. The overhead light, which is a fill light, and then
Yep.
the one here on the left, which is that would count as the key light.
Yeah. I'd like to see some people have a crack at this. And this is the result, right?
That's the result, yeah.
Wow. Hold on. I'm just going to flick back to that. So, and then bam. Amazing. Amazing.
So, when you do something like this and you're doing it commercially, the detail is very important. So we need to ensure that we don't blow, because it's quite easy. It's a white lingerie, so it's quite easy obviously to reflect a lot of the light. So that's why indirect and feathering does help, in that you can get that detail, so that potentially, if this is going to end up in a catalog, that anyone that's going to buy it, they'll have an idea of what the intricacies of the actual garments are.
Hey, Robert, with your different, say if you got 2 or 3 lights, I mean, the percentages that you have the lights at, as in the intensity, is that just trial and error, or is it something that until you develop your style, or is there a formula?
I'm not very formulaic, so I found if there is a formula and you use that formula, you end up shooting to that formula. So
right,
formula, I use that same formula, then the end result tends to look quite the same.
Yeah.
And as you might appreciate, what photographers try to do is stand out from the other photographers, and produce something that is different. And so for me, it's very much by feel. When I'm in the studio, as the case here, I would be shooting tethered. So the camera is tethered to the computer, and so I see the image come onto the screen immediately.
Yep.
When I'm doing something like this, I'll correct the contrast and tonality, and then so that every image looks the same.
Man, I've just got to say thank you so much for being with me. Hey, I'm gonna anything that you'd like to say before we sign out?
No, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to be on this. I've always really admired your photography, and you have such an amazing job as well. You get to also travel and meet some amazing people, being on set. I've had the opportunity to do some stills photography for a couple of indie films, and Channel 9, Channel 7 for a little bit, but nothing like the stuff you do. I just think it's amazing. So thank you for the opportunity to have me here talking to you. Maybe one of us should do one for you, right?
Yeah, well, that'd be. I'll do. I'll be up for that.
Can we switch? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. We can switch anytime. We can pick. You pick your favorite film, and I'll talk you through some photos. How's that?
Okay, done.
But
I'll email
so,
you today.
I'll say it again. Come on, it's like it blows me away.
I need to come up with a different phrase when I'm doing your.
Yeah, I know, right?
I gotta come up with something different.
I'm gonna chuck you in the green room. Can you stay there for a minute while I sign off, and then then we can have a quick chat.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Jason.
Thanks, man. So, team, Robert Coppa. I told you wouldn't be disappointed. Something for everyone. Something for me as a professional photographer, and more so even for the enthusiast, who I believe is the heart of photography, and to learn something from someone of Robert's stature is incredible. I didn't realize that he was judging with the AIPP, which is, invaluable for you guys to be listening to. The two lighting setup, just the simplicity of starting with a light and pushing it in, as opposed to starting with 10 lights and pulling them out. There's so much that everyone can take away from it. Like I said, from me down to a beginner. So I got to thank you, Robert, and downstairs for all the information that Rob's going to give us links for. And I'd love it if you guys could subscribe and do the bell so that you're notified next time there's an ep up. And have a great day, and thank you. Cheers. Bye.